Let's kick things right off. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the absolute most critical battlegrounds in modern tech. We're talking about the AI cybersecurity arms race, and it's happening right now, just beyond your firewall. Let's get straight to the core premise.
So ask yourself this, is your website really safe just because you have a firewall? For decades, the conventional wisdom was pretty simple. Build a strong perimeter, and your internal assets are perfectly safe. But I'm going to go ahead and pull the rug out from under that assumption right now. Because that cozy feeling of safety, yeah, for a lot of organizations, it's actually nothing more than a really dangerous illusion.
Okay, let's dive into this. The reality of the modern internet is what we call the firewall illusion. Look, your traditional firewall hasn't been breached. Nobody broke in. It's actually doing its job perfectly. But your web application, it's already been compromised. How does that even happen? Well, modern hackers aren't wasting their time trying to blast through a reinforced concrete wall. They are simply putting on a disguise, walking right up, and strolling straight through your wide-open front door. To really grasp why this happens, think of a traditional firewall like a building security guard stationed at the front desk. That guard checks your ID card, right? In network terms, they're checking your IP address, the port, and the protocol. If you have a valid ID, great, you're in the building. But a web application firewall, or a WAF, is a totally different beast. The WAF is like a highly trained detective standing right next to that guard, demanding to physically open up and inspect the actual contents of the briefcase you're carrying. It operates at the application layer. It's looking deeply into the logins, the APIs, the search queries, the session cookies, the whole shebang.
Section 1. Enter the web application firewall. So what exactly is this detective looking for? Well, a WAF is scrutinizing an unbelievable volume of data points. We are talking fractions of a second here. Before a request ever even touches your web server, the WAF is literally tearing apart the URLs, the headers, the session data, JSON payloads, and even the exact strings of text a user types into a search box. It's analyzing the literal HTTP and HTTPS content itself. It leaves absolutely no stone unturned. Let's look at a quick example. Consider a totally normal request asking for a logging page versus a malicious one. To a traditional network firewall, and honestly, even to your standard web server, that malicious request just looks like regular old web traffic. It's using the right port and the right protocol, so it checks out. But the WAF? It looks at the actual payload and instantly spots the sneaky malicious SQL signature tacked onto the end. The classic ID equals 1 or 1 equals 1. Because it recognizes that attack signature, the WAF just drops the connection right then and there. Boom, stopped cold. Moving on to Section 2, the threat landscape, common web attacks. Let's run through these quickly. First up is the absolute classic SQL injection. It is honestly wild to think that an attack as old as the classic Little Bobby Tables joke is still this devastating, but it absolutely is. This is where an attacker tries to just cram raw database commands into standard input fields, like a username box. If your backend doesn't validate that input properly, the attacker can siphon out massive amounts of data, or even take total control of your database. But the WAF stands in the way. It catches those payload patterns and blocks suspicious keywords like union select, long before they ever get near the database. Next, we've got cross-site scripting, or XSS. This is where hackers inject malicious JavaScript directly into the website itself. If a user's browser executes that script, bam, their session cookie gets stolen and their account is totally hijacked. To stop this, WAFs specifically hunt down and neutralize unauthorized script tags, recognize JavaScript patterns, and document object model, or DOM injection signatures that try to fundamentally alter the page's structure. Then we have file upload attacks. Think about how many sites let you upload a profile picture or a resume PDF. Hackers love to exploit these forms to upload web shells, like a disguised PHP script. Once that file is on the server, they execute it and gain control. It's a total nightmare. The WAF prevents this by rigorously verifying MIME types, which dictate what a file actually is, along with checking extensions and the underlying contents to make sure no malicious executables sneak through. And finally, API attacks. Now, I want to pause here for a second because this is absolutely crucial. APIs, not your traditional web pages, are the real primary targets for modern hackers. Everything runs on APIs today. Your mobile apps, microservices, SaaS platforms, and definitely all these new AI agents. WAFs are uniquely positioned to defend APIs because they deeply analyze those complex JSON structures, monitor API request rates, and validate token behaviors. Section 3. How WAFs detect and neutralize threats. Let's talk about how the magic actually happens. We are witnessing a huge evolution in detection methodology right now. Historically, WAFs relied pretty heavily on signature detection. Think of that as essentially a massive rulebook of known bad stuff. It's super fast, sure, but the glaring flaw? It's incredibly easy for a clever hacker to bypass just by slightly tweaking their code. And that is exactly why modern WAFs have evolved into behavioral analysis. They use AI to model what normal traffic looks like, so they can immediately flag anything abnormal. Advanced WAFs aren't just staring at the payload anymore. They are looking at the entire context of the behavior. For example, a normal human user does not send 500 login requests in a single second, right? A normal human doesn't suddenly scan thousands of obscure URLs in a millisecond. These are abnormal behavior models. The AI WAF looks at that and instantly recognizes, okay, these access patterns simply aren't human. Because the reality is, a massive chunk of internet traffic today isn't human at all. It's automated tools, crawlers, and malicious botnets. So the WAF essentially acts as the ultimate Turing test. It looks at input metrics. Is there normal mouse movement, or is this clearly a script? It checks browser execution. Does the visitor actually render the JavaScript fully, or does it aggressively skip it the way a bot would? It even checks complex TLS fingerprints, those unique cryptographic signatures of a connection, to separate your real customers from credential stuffers and AI agents. So, where does this sit in your stack? Let's look at the ideal deployment architecture. The WAF needs to be positioned right at the edge layer. That means right after your content delivery network, but before the load balancer and your internal web servers. This placement is absolutely critical. By putting the WAF at the very front of the line, you intercept and scrub all that malicious traffic, the DDoS attempts, the bot swarms, before they ever touch your backend. If you let them through, your computing costs are going to absolutely skyrocket. Clean it at the edge. All right, section 4, the climax, the AI arms race. This is where things get really intense. Here is the plot twist, folks. Those traditional signature-based WAFs we just talked about, they are rapidly becoming obsolete. Why? Because the attackers aren't just running static scripts anymore. They are weaponizing AI. Modern attacks use AI to automatically modify their payloads on the fly, dynamically dodging those static rulebooks. They are running relentless, automated injection testing, and honestly, terrifyingly, they're getting incredibly good at simulating authentic human operations specifically to trick those behavioral analysis engines. So the cybersecurity battlefield has totally shifted. It's no longer humans writing rules to stop other humans. It is AI defending against AI in real time. In response to these crazy advanced threats, the AI WAF has emerged. It does real-time learning of your specific traffic models, constantly establishing highly dynamic baselines for what normal actually looks like on your unique application. We are even seeing WAFs utilizing large language models to analyze the actual semantics and intent behind complex web requests. It's wild stuff. But here is the truth. Against evolving AI threats, an isolated defense is a failing defense. A single WAF is not a silver bullet anymore. The future of application security relies on a deeply interconnected coalition. Your WAF has got to share intelligence with your EDR systems tracking your endpoints, feed into your SIEM, which centrally logs events, and be monitored by an AI-driven security operations center. You need a fully integrated, intelligent ecosystem. I think this quote sums it up perfectly. The WAF is really helping enterprises answer one core question. Is this request actually a normal human? In the AI era, this battle is just beginning. That is the profound reality of the internet today. Which leaves us with this final, vital question to ask yourselves and your engineering teams. In an era where AI fights AI in fractions of a millisecond, is your application's front door really guarded, or are you just relying on an illusion? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. If you found this breakdown of the AI security landscape helpful, and you want more deep dive analysis into modern threat architectures, make sure to engage with the platform so we can keep bringing you these critical insights. Stay secure and keep learning.